Hello, and welcome to the Gaia update for the Scorpio Full Moon that happens on May 7th, 2020. I'm Adrienne Elise. Well, this is a powerful turning point, this full moon in Scorpio, because it happens on the same day, right at the time that the North Node moves into the sign of Gemini. Now, for the last little bit over a year and a half, the North Node has been in the sign of Cancer, South Node in the sign of Capricorn. So the nodal shift is a huge deal and a huge turning point. And this full moon happens right at that place where we make this turn. On top of that, Venus is preparing for a retrograde in Gemini. Venus retrogrades are very powerful and potent. They last for 6 weeks. And it's about a huge rearranging in our value system, what we care about, what we want in our life, who we are really. So on the 13th of May, Venus turns retrograde. But at the time of this full moon, Venus is in a square with Neptune. So Venus squares with Neptune 3 times for this retrograde. And because the first 2 times happen just before, the first time happens exact May 4th through 6th, leading up to this full moon. The second time happens the 20th to the 22nd of May. So just before it turns retrograde and just after it turns retrograde. So basically the whole month of May, we're feeling Venus in square to Neptune. So this is a powerful energy for this full moon, with Venus about to turn retrograde in square to Neptune and the nodal shift into the North Node moving in to Gemini. So here we are, the Scorpio full moon at this turning point. And so leading up to this full moon on the 5th, just a couple of days, is an exact conjunction of Mercury and the Sun. Now, Mercury and the Sun, the last time they came together was in January during that Saturn-Pluto conjunction. So this is a very epic conjunction, very powerful on Cinco de Mayo and in this energy of this full moon turning point. Because the Sun and Mercury, the Sun is who do we think we are? Mercury is our mind trying to make sense of things, our conceptual reality, the ruler of Gemini. So with the North Node moving into Gemini and Venus retrograde in Gemini, we're talking about rearranging our mind, a new perspective. And the North Node energy is like, what do we need to do to move forward? And in this case, we've got to completely rearrange our mind, how we think, how we see things. And a lot of this has to do with Mercury's recent retrograde that went from Pisces into Aquarius and back into Pisces. So how do we move from this old Piscean age into the Aquarian age? And that means a huge shift of perspective and a huge shift of perspective around who we think we are. Because this Mercury-Sun conjunction that happens on the 5th of May comes on the heels, is very close to Uranus, right? Both the Sun and then Mercury both went over Uranus in Taurus, and Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. So it's like a radical upgrade. Uranus has like a vibrational energy, a disruptive vibrational energy, speaking to these changes that in our whole reality, what it means to move from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius. And so these personal planets, the Sun and Mercury, our perspective and who we think we are and our perspective, have just gotten a radical shakeup with that conjunction with Uranus. And then when they come together, it's like they're coming together in council and being like, well, what do you think? And who do you think you are? And what are we doing here? So this fits the time on the planet that we're in. Very uncertain because we've been thrown a loop and radical changes in our way of going about life and facing some hard truths. This is the energy of Gemini too. Gemini is a thinker. It's a mastermind. It's also the manipulator. Gemini is the twins. It's how to figure out this voice versus this voice, and this versus the other, and the war within between our male and female, our right and left brain, and using the duality principle to try to come back into oneness. Gemini is about the other person, and where we are in orientation to the other person. And we are being asked, humanity on planet Earth, in order to move into this new age, in order to move into our spiritual ascension, in order to move our spiritual evolution forward, we've got to resolve some division that exists in humanity. And this Scorpio full moon is speaking to that, because Scorpio has an energy of reveal. So with the Sun and Mercury together in Taurus, just having come off of that conjunction with Uranus and this new vibrational reality, and how do we orient ourselves, our mind and our identity to this? They're together across from this full moon, because that's what makes a full moon, is when, the sun and the moon are opposite in the zodiac, right? And so Mercury and the Sun trying to figure this out, and a Scorpio full moon, because Scorpio wants to know the truth. Scorpio wants to dig and dive deep into below the delusions. And Scorpio energy is about revealing the shadow so that it can be healed, and so that we can move beyond. And this is exactly where we are at on our planet. What's keeping the Gemini energy is saying that what's keeping us from moving forward has to do with not being clear in our mind. We've been lied to for a very long time about our true history, about the technology that's available for us and that's actually being used against us right now, and just a myriad of other things, like the systems of our world that are actually working against us, like the pharmaceutical industry and the banking industry, and the educational system dumbing us down. And these things these structures, this is the whole Capricorn energy, which Jupiter has moved off of Pluto now. Jupiter is a couple of degrees away. They're still technically in conjunction, but we're having a little break because Pluto has turned retrograde. And but the whole bloom of this Capricorn energy has to do with like the breakdown in our structures of our physical world and our reality that we can't take with us, right? We cannot move into the Aquarian age with these structures that can't support us as in these new higher frequency vibrations, right? And we're shifting our whole structure, our whole idea. It's almost like quantum technology, quantum physics, the ideas that have been proven in science have to land home into our life, right? Like we got to go from our particle mentality to our wave mentality. We've got to go from the fact that we think physical is physical into understanding that we're all energy. That's what's required for us to really move over into this Aquarian age. And with that realization comes some massive disclosure about the truth of our history, our galactic place in our galactic family, how we've been in quarantine, just you name it, it goes on and on. But so this Scorpio full moon is like a spotlight on this, saying, okay, here are the delusions that are keeping us back. And this is what this Gemini energy is trying to do. Because this Gemini, Venus and Gemini in square to Neptune is actually in an inconjunct relationship to this Scorpio full moon, meaning exactly across but one sign over. So the inconjunct energy is saying, this is what needs to be addressed. This is where we need the shift of perspective. This is what the Gemini, Venus retrograde in Gemini and Gemini North Node is about. Our mental perspective and our idea of who we are, what we want, and what we stand for is got to have a radical change. And that means facing some deep, dark, hidden, hard truths. Now, we've all been doing the shadow work individually, these soul groups, for years, right? It's like we've had a lot of opportunities astrologically to go deep down into those places. And that is kind of representing this weird place we're at on the planet where the individual shadow work of these advanced souls has come to a place where there's a collective component that needs to be addressed. These collective lies, and particularly the darkest truths of what we've allowed to happen on our planet, have got to be revealed and cleansed we can't really cleanse them from the planet unless we face those truths, because otherwise we'll just let that happen again. Humanity has got to face the truth of all of these things, you know? And so there's a heavy energy that these very sensitive, advanced souls have been carrying throughout lifetimes. And it's actually like we've been in a psychological experiment, particularly in this lifetime, where there's very dark things going on, because we're a collective consciousness, right? And so these energies that have been trying to hold back our evolution since Atlantean time, actually deliberately creating dark creations and dark acts, you know, in order to affect the collective consciousness, in order to attack you souls and make you feel shame and make you feel guilt and make you feel dark and dirty. And this whole virus thing on the planet is a blooming of this consciousness that humanity is the disease, and we have to stay away from each other, and we can't we can't share our energy because it's contagious, and it's like a direct attack on humanity, saying that we are the disease. And actually we're not. And it's like, so I've been shown that when these soul groups release this heaviness and this shame of what they've been feeling that's been happening in the collective consciousness in these psychological experiments, and they don't know that's what they're feeling, right? So they think it's their own. These souls have taken the blame again and again and again. And yet these souls are advanced, high dimensional, just so many experiences. You guys, before you ever came to Earth. And it's time to reclaim your star power. You know, that goes exactly along with throwing off these dark psychological experiment that we've been in. And so it's like those things go together. And so that's where it's like these soul groups are being asked to step over into those higher frequencies to emancipate your brain, your mind, your psychology. And what I've been shown again and again is that when these souls release that shame, that heaviness, this blame of where you felt the collective and you've been internalizing it. And once you recognize, see, a lot of this will happen is as these truths come out, humanity in general and these advanced souls are going to be like, oh, wow, like I've been carrying all this shame and blame and it's misplaced. It's programming. It's to keep you feeling. I mean, look at the Piscean age. The religious control energies that used our oneness consciousness in the Piscean age to hold us down were all based on the fact that we're sinners and we came in wrong, bad, dirty, and we have to be redeemed. And yet the irony of it is that we will be redeemed when these truths come out into the wider whole, which they have to. They have to come out for us to evolve. And that's been a strange thing for me, studying my whole life, dedicating my whole life and lifetimes to spiritual awakening, and recognizing that it doesn't have to do with meditation and kundalini and all that stuff. I mean, it does, but it's like, it really has to do with truth and facing bigger, wider truths. That's how the masses awaken. And we are on the precipice of this. And it's very, very uncomfortable. But wow, what a shift it's going to be into the light when these soul groups, and you guys, you soul groups on the cutting edge of spiritual ascension, realize that the shame and blame and heaviness you've been carrying is misplaced. It's you trying to heal karma of the control energies that you took on and you bought into over lifetimes of patterns, that it was your fault. But you came in as a purified soul, and it wasn't even, you weren't capable of the negative creating you were blamed for. But you still took responsibility because you are that big, compassionate soul. And now it's like that big, compassionate soul needs to get out from under the garbage. And that's what the Scorpio moon is saying. It's shining a spotlight on the lies, the shame, the distortion, and recognizing that we have, these souls on the cutting edge have done the shadow work, right? And we can't get any further until the collective decides to release these shadows. And again, it's bringing up all of this energy of loyalty contracts, holding us back for other people, holding back. And it's like, that's all a delusion and distortion too, because we can't we can't actually take anybody with us unless we first go ourselves, right? And it's like you as, dropping the shame and releasing this heavy energy you've been carrying for the collective. That's your mission and soul purpose, And I've been shown again, when these soul groups release this garbage that's not theirs. So if you can take on other people's energy, and I know you've experienced this, right? And you can take on other people's energy, work on it and work on it and work on it. And if it's not your karma, if it's not your energy, you cannot solve it. And we've been doing this for the collective. And maybe we've been holding the collective pain, keeping the collective from and the control energies from dealing with their own creation and karma, right? And so when you say, I am no longer going to be a garbage bin, I am no longer a recycling service, I'm here for something else. And that is this higher vibrational frequency. And so to give yourself permission to move over into that. This is everything that this Uranus and Taurus has to do with, because Uranus represents these higher frequency vibrations, the energy of the Aquarian age, the energy of spiritual ascension and moving forward in our evolution. And then Taurus represents like our self-worth and whether we think we deserve. So it's specifically speaking to you souls that are here to lead the way. And do you deserve it? Right? So this is on the table with this full moon because the Sun and Mercury have just gone over Uranus the Sun and Mercury just gone over Uranus and now together across from that full moon in Scorpio. So all of this is on the table right now. Scorpio wants to reveal the truth. People who have a lot of Scorpio cannot handle people who want to. Most people in this world deal with life as a human by keeping secrets and by lying to themselves, right? But people who have a lot of Scorpio energy cannot tolerate that. And this is this energy. We cannot tolerate the lies anymore, right? We got to move forward. And now the other thing about Scorpio, which I think is a huge shift. It's like I'm just seeing this kind of like, turning on a pin, this energy of this full moon because of this nodal shift, because of Venus turning retrograde. Also, we've got Saturn turns retrograde on the 11th and Jupiter turns retrograde on the 14th. So Saturn turns retrograde on the 11th, Venus on the 13th, Jupiter on the 14th. So it's like bam, 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 just a few days the next week after this. And because Venus is in that square with Neptune, we're feeling this oncoming, uncomfortable feeling of this Venus retrograde, right? Of pulling us back and pulling us back into facing the reality that our world has been turned upside down. And what is the new normal and how do we move forward? And, if humanity is going to, this part of the deal with this whole current world situation, I'm seeing it more and more as a test to see who is going to comply with the new world order and follow the rules and buy into the program and who still has their free will, right? And to see what it might take for that full control to happen. Right? And we're being shown very clearly, and this is kind of like the metaphor that's coming forward. It's like, because the Venus retrograde, of course, has to do with our personal relationships. Venus, Venus is always represents, it's like what we love, what we care about, what we want in our life, what makes us feel good, and our relationships, our love, just relational love. And so when Venus turns retrograde, we're talking about our relationships. And this is like, when you've been in that relationship where you thought, it's okay, we can do this, we can heal, we can figure this out, we can make it work, we can do it. And then there's like inevitably a big bloom of the toxicity and a very clear example of what's actually going on, say in a control-based relationship or in narcissistic patterns, right? And then you can't pretend that it's going to be okay, and you can't negotiate with a terrorist, right? And that's the place we are at on the planet. It's like, you guys, we're being shown the true agenda of what's trying to happen to us. And if we don't adjust our thinking, Gemini, our way of life, our value system in a radical way, we're toast, And it's like, oh, because it's so hard to look at, right? And don't you feel sometimes like, gosh, if I could only just be unconscious, like, could I just go back to unconsciousness and just live my life and just get through my day like these other people and not think about these bigger, wider truths, except for that's not who you are. And that's exactly where these soul groups are at, right? Like, you are at that precipice, you are at the line, you are at the place where there's no more forward motion in any other directions but beside deep into the truth of who you are, opening up to your spiritual path and purpose and incarnating this bigger part of you, this bigger spiritual part of you, and saying yes to what you came here for. There's no other options. And so that's for these souls what this turning point is about. For humanity, we got to face some truths. And, so it's all coming up for all of us, a microcosm of these truths coming forward in relationships for these souls where you've been in control-based relationships, you thought that was love. And then in the macrocosm, we're looking at how we've been controlled as a race, as a human race, manipulated genetically, stolen from, lied to, just kept as slaves on this planet while being told we were free, right? So, and this Scorpio full moon is like losing patience with the paradigm, right? Like I can feel it in these soul groups, okay, I've gone along with the program as much as I can and I'm about to blow a gasket, right? Because Mars is a ruler of Scorpio and Pluto's trying to break down some structures. It's retrograde now. So it's like, okay, we could go as far as we could go without more truth. That's what I feel like Pluto's saying. We could go as far as we could go with the breakdown of these old structures that are toxic and not serving humanity. But until we get some more truth, we're stuck. And that's an interesting energy because it's like Saturn retrograde, Venus retrograde, Jupiter retrograde all together. Now, Saturn and Jupiter stay really close in their retrograde cycle. And then what they do is together, and December, they move over into Aquarius. So like, we're not going to feel a really big shift of the energy until the end of this year. Like, we're in it. And hopefully we're in it to win it, right? I mean, we already won. But it's like, we got to get that mentality. Like, oh, this is the time I came for. This is what I've been working for and planning for eons. And it's happening. It's time. And what's going on? These souls are feeling like defeated, a failure. I'm not good enough. I don't deserve the higher frequencies. I'm all alone, And it's like, no. This is what you came for. This is your opportunity. And that's a really powerful energy because it's like, that your interaction in real world time with your soul group and this getting together and working on these projects, you can sense that's right around the corner in this new paradigm. But right now, in order to make the shift over this precipice, you got to be alone. I mean, these souls are, even if they're in relationship, they're feeling spiritually alone right now. And that's part of it. Because it's a solo journey in the wilderness. Then on the other side, and it doesn't mean you're not working with your soul group on other levels, and to really tap into that. And that's definitely the energy around all of the events that I do, is like tapping in on the astral plane to your soul group and the fact that there's a whole group of you working on these same exact issues. And you do feel alone because that's part of the program to a certain point. Because you have to step over, everything's pushing us here, even though it feels like it's all working against us, right? Technological controls at the max right now, just a huge bloom. And what if that's all working for you to push you to this Scorpio place of like, I'm done. I've had enough. I'm not. You have told me for lifetimes and evolutions that I am of this world, and I'm not. I'm a spiritual being, and I'm going to live that truth. That's your freedom. That's your emancipation. That's the emancipation of your mind, and that's how you bring people with you. So, powerful turning point for these soul groups with the Scorpio full moon. Now, the other energy with the Scorpio is that Scorpio wants connection right? Like Scorpio is like just wants human connection, and that's where people are losing their patience too. Like, okay, none of these stories are lining up, and the news just continues to lie to us, and the facts are something different, and 6 feet apart, and you got this mask on, and it's a joke. We are being so played right now. Because yes, there's a virus. Yes, it can be dangerous to certain people with underlying health issues and age, but it is very much not. It's the evidence that's coming forward more and more, which is being censored and absolutely removed from the internet, has to do with the fact that the masks and the social distancing don't actually help with this virus. And we're not being told the truth, and we're being told to stay away from each other, and we're told to disconnect and hide our face, not smile. Have you seen when you connect with a person in the grocery store and they're trying to smile? We want to smile and see each other. This is humanity, and it's like, this is a flying in the face of the power of human connection. And Scorpio full moon, Scorpio is having none of it. And it's kind of it's like that boomerang effect where people are like, oh my gosh, I think we need to get together in the park, huge numbers, and have a love in and a hug in and touch each other and be close and say, we're not playing this game. We are not playing because we're powerful beings. We have a powerful immune system. And the healing we need, because this virus is everywhere. It's clearly in the air. It's in the particulate matter in the air in Italy. And they're trying to say that's from sneezing. No, it's being sprayed upon us. This virus is everywhere. The mask and the distance is not help. It's a joke. They're laughing at us right now. And that's where it's like it's showing us, though, the power of taking the mask off, of the pretending that humanity, the false sense of connection on social media, the false intimacy, the fake world, Hollywood, everything we've been told and fed. Take it all off. Take off the mask, and come together in human connection. The power of humanity is in togetherness. And that's what they're attacking. And the Scorpio full moon is like a big bloom of like, I'm not playing along with this anymore, And that's where it's like, for these souls that do see more truth, that do understand and have that hard place of being the only one awake in a room of sleeping people, which is not very comfortable, but trusting that this process is giving humanity a really good opportunity to see the lies, to see the agenda, to see the darker agenda, and to emancipate their brain. And it's got to go as far as it's got to go. And that's what's really hard for us light workers, because it's this constant pull of like, I got to go wake them up and save and pull them with me, and being like, no, your job is to go. See, this is the message that's been coming through right now. It's the spiritual awakening that you've been working on, this ascension for eons and lifetimes, and whole evolutions. And to come here and be a part of this, we're so close, to like a huge tipping point. And for some in humanity, it is time to stand up and protest. And we need to see that, we need to see that. But it's kind of like we have to, these souls that are on the cutting edge and are here for the embodiment of the energies and the demonstration of what's possible. And this is a different kind of leadership and a different kind of protest. And we're kind of beyond, like, it's too late. Lifetimes ago, years ago, yes, there's that energy of like protest and going out there and making the change, right? But now we're at the precipice of this shift, and we do it through vibration, and we do it through permission and self-worth enough to move into these higher frequency vibrations and stabilize there, right? And in every moment, and maybe this is part of it, like in every moment, every conversation, just being real, being human, take your mask off, be here with me. Meet every situation in your authenticity. This is what Scorpio demands of people, because Scorpio energy just reveals the shadow. And that's why it's like they can't tolerate a whole bunch of lies and like just hiding and stuff. And so they reveal it, and then often they get blamed for the shadow. It's like, oh, they reveal the shadow, and then that's your fault. You revealed the shadow. So it's revealing secrets that people can't even look at within themselves, and that's very difficult. And you souls know what I'm talking about, because you have this huge light, this huge intuitive abilities, and then these lower karmic relationships. And it's like, then you're like, well, this is how I'm seeing things. And they're like, no, you're wrong, because they don't want to look at the lies they've been telling themselves. And that's where we're at. Humanity. So move into this powerful feeling of gratitude instead of the defeat and the, oh my God, I didn't do enough in my past lives. And how did we get here? And it's all my fault and all that. And like the disgustingness of this agenda being played out, and move into like, thank God I am. And I'm here, and I'm awake, and I get to lead the way. It's finally time for you, for us in these soul groups, to have full permission to move into our greater, wider truth and that spiritual presence. And everything is working for us right now. And instead of being like, I really want to go back to sleep or get off of this planet, be like, oh, I've been waiting for this for so long, because those energies that you're about to move into are so ecstatically beautiful and supportive of you. And like, it's like living as the love you really are. You've known as a concept, right? And it's time for us to come together. It's like Red Rover and move over together into this new paradigm. And that's what we're here for. And it's an exciting time to be alive, and powerful, amazing opportunity as a soul that you lined up to get here on earth to do this, and that's the energy we need to be in, is this deep and profound, the vulnerability of the truth and the authenticity of the truth of who we are as spiritual beings. And let's do this. So maybe you can join me for the Scorpio Full Moon activation. That's going to be on Wednesday, May 6th at 4 p.m. Mountain Time. That's exactly 12 hours before the exact full moon. And so really cool. We can tap into this energy. We can set a tone. We can demand and command the vibrational energies of these soul groups and what we're here for, and that higher octave of experience of life that we're bringing in and building. And supporting humanity by being willing to face the truth and be in our authenticity and be in our human connection and celebrate that together. So I hope to see you there on that live activation on Wednesday. And if it doesn't work in your time zone, just know that you can catch the replay, and that energy will be encoded there for you. Your questions answered. You're involved in the group with your intention to join. So I look forward to seeing you there or on the next update. Until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.